Some discoveries are never meant to be found. Late one night, a man sits alone in a storage unit he bought at auction. Just to see. He finds a battered VHS tape with faded Chinese writing on the label. He does not know what it is. He plays it anyway. What he sees stops him cold. A man on screen moving in ways that should not be possible. Techniques that break every rule of human biology. Filmed in secret. Never meant for anyone to see. That man on the tape is Bruce Lee. The man watching it, hands shaking, rewinding it again and again through the night, is Joe Rogan. By morning, he has watched it 11 times. He has not slept. He has canceled 3 podcasts. He has called his doctor, his trainer, and a physicist. None of them believe him. What was Bruce Lee hiding? Share this now. Let me tell you something about Joe Rogan that most people miss. He is not just a talker. He is a digger. When something gets under his skin, he does not let it go. He pulls at it. He follows it. He makes calls at 2 in the morning and he does not apologize for it. That is who he is. That is who he has always been. And right now, sitting at his kitchen table with the sun coming up outside and a legal pad in front of him, that is exactly what he is doing. He watches the tape a 12th time. This time he takes notes. He writes down every movement he can identify. There are techniques he recognizes. He has trained long enough to know the basics of Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do, traditional Kung Fu. He can place most of what he sees. He writes it all down. Then there is the last sequence. He watches it 4 times in a row. He writes nothing, because there is nothing to write. He does not have a name for what he is seeing. He does not have a category for it. The man on screen, and yes, by now he is certain it is Bruce Lee. He has watched enough footage to know that posture, that precision, moves in a way that simply should not produce the result it produces. The force is wrong. Not wrong like bad technique. Wrong like the numbers do not add up. He picks up his phone and calls Marcus Webb. Marcus has been his head striking coach for 15 years. Former kickboxing champion. Knows more about human movement than almost anyone Rogan has ever met. Rogan does not explain. He just holds his phone up and plays the clip he filmed off the screen. Marcus watches it. Rogan can hear him breathing. Then Marcus says one word. Impossible. Not impossible like he is impressed. Impossible like he is genuinely unsettled. There is a difference and Rogan hears it clearly. Rogan says, "That is what I thought." He ends the call. He picks up the storage unit receipt from the edge of the table. He bought the unit 3 weeks ago at an auction in Burbank. Paid $240 for it. He was not even looking for anything specific. He just likes auctions. Always has. The idea that someone else's forgotten life is sitting in a box somewhere, waiting. He reads the receipt again. The original registered owner of the unit is listed as one name, David Chow. Now here is the thing. That name means nothing to Rogan at first. No famous David Chow comes to mind. No public figure. No one he has interviewed. Just a name on a piece of paper. So he searches. What he finds, and this takes him the better part of an hour because David Chow left almost no digital trail, is this. David Chow was a production assistant. Hong Kong. Active in the early 1970s. He worked on the set of Way of the Dragon in 1972. That is the film Bruce Lee wrote, directed, and starred in. The one with Chuck Norris in the Coliseum. Chow is not listed in the main credits. He shows up in one archived production document, a crew roster that someone had scanned and posted on an obscure martial arts history forum 11 years ago. One document. That is all. Rogan sits back. He is looking at 2 things now. A tape and a name. A tape that shows something that cannot be explained, and a name that connects directly to the man on the tape. David Chow was declared dead in 2019. No obituary. No news coverage. A single public record from a Los Angeles County database. Rogan writes the name down on the legal pad. He circles it. He knows what he has to do next. He has to find out who David Chow really was. He has to understand how this tape went from a film set in 1972 to a storage unit in Burbank 50 years later. And he has to do it carefully, because something about this already feels like more than a coincidence. He is about to stand up and pour himself a coffee when his phone buzzes on the table. Unknown number. He answers it. Silence. 3 full seconds of it. Then a voice. Quiet. Steady. Not threatening in its tone. Threatening in its certainty. You should not have that tape. The line goes dead. Rogan puts the phone down slowly. He looks at the legal pad. He looks at David Chow's name, circled in ink. He picks up the pen and writes one more word underneath it. He does not sleep. He tries. He lies down for maybe 40 minutes, stares at the ceiling, and gives up. His brain will not stop moving. That voice on the phone keeps repeating. You should not have that tape. Not a question. Not a warning exactly. A statement of fact, delivered like the person saying it had already decided what came next. Rogan gets up. He goes back to the garage. He has been careful with the tape since he found it. He handles it by the edges. He keeps it in a clean plastic sleeve he found in a box of old camera equipment. But now he wants to look at the casing itself more carefully. The physical object. Not just what is on it. He takes it out. Holds it under a bright light. The label is handwritten. The Chinese characters are faded but deliberate. Someone took their time writing them. He photographs the label, sends it to a translation contact he has used before for podcast research. Then he turns the tape over. The back casing has a small crack along the seam. He noticed it before but did not think anything of it. Now he looks closer. The crack is not from age. It is too clean. Someone opened this casing at some point and closed it again. He gets a small flathead screwdriver. He works the seam gently. The casing comes apart in 2 halves. And there, wedged behind the left spool, folded twice, is a photograph. Black and white. Old stock. The kind of print that went yellow at the edges decades ago. For men standing together. Not posed formally. More like someone caught them between takes. Bruce Lee is at the center. Rogan recognizes him immediately. To Lee's left is a shorter man, maybe 40, wire-rimmed glasses. To Lee's right, a younger man, early 20s, looking slightly away from the camera. And in the back, half in shadow, a 4th man. Blurred. Either he moved or the camera caught him at the wrong moment. Someone has drawn a circle in red ink around the man on Lee's right. Rogan turns the photograph over. On the back, in English, in small neat handwriting, July 13, 1973. He sets the photograph down. He knows that date. Anyone who knows anything about Bruce Lee knows that date. Bruce Lee died on July 20, 1973. This photograph was taken 7 days before that. Rogan photographs it front and back. He uploads it. He runs a reverse image search on the circled face and gets nothing. He tries a second service. This one returns a result. The name that comes back is Raymond Hui. The attached record is sparse. Former officer, Hong Kong Government Intelligence Division. Officially retired 1975. No further public records after that point. No interviews. No published work. Nothing. Rogan sits with that for a moment. Then he reaches out to a contact he has used twice before. A documentary filmmaker based in Hong Kong who specializes in martial arts history. Her name is not important right now. What is important is that she responds within the hour. And her response is 4 words. Do not call me. She follows it 30 seconds later with a second message. Call me. They speak for 22 minutes. She talks fast and keeps her voice low the whole time. Here is what she tells him. Raymond Hui was not a standard intelligence officer. He ran a specific unit. Small. Private. Its function was to monitor and, when necessary, suppress martial arts research that the Hong Kong government considered a security risk. The concern was real. In the early 1970s, there was serious institutional fear that certain advanced techniques, the kind that produced disproportionate force, could be reproduced, scaled, weaponized. Huey's job was to make sure that did not happen. Bruce Lee, she says, had found something. Not a weapon. Something deeper. A method of training the nervous system that changed how force was generated at a fundamental level. Not more muscle. Different pathways. The body was the same. The results were not. We wanted it buried. Lee apparently did not agree. Rogan understands now what he is holding. The tape is not a training record. It is proof. Bruce Lee filmed it deliberately, either as insurance or as a message for someone he trusted. He drives to his studio to make copies. Backup drives. 3 cloud services. He is not taking chances. He arrives at the studio. The side door is unlocked. He always locks that door. Always. He steps inside carefully. He moves through the space. Everything looks exactly as he left it. Nothing knocked over. Nothing out of place. He checks the safe where he stored the tape that morning. The tape is gone. He stands there for a moment. Then he checks his phone. The cloud backup he started before he left the house finished 3 minutes before he arrived. He has the full transfer confirmation on screen. He still has the digital copy. He still has the photograph. He still has everything. He sits down in the studio chair. He breathes. He almost smiles. He tells himself, I am still ahead of this. He is wrong. But he does not know that yet. The drive arrives the next morning. No envelope. No postage. It is sitting inside his P.O. box like someone walked in and placed it there by hand. A small black USB drive in a plain plastic case. No label. No note. He should not plug it in. He knows that. He takes it to a tech he trusts, a guy who has swept his studio for bugs twice before, and they open it on an isolated machine that has never touched a network. 1 file. A video. No file name. Just a date stamp. He hits play. And everything he thought he understood about the last 48 hours falls apart. The footage is from the storage unit. High quality. Fixed angle. It shows the entire unit from a position near the ceiling, back left corner. And it shows Rogan walking in, moving through boxes, picking up the tape, turning it over in his hands. The timestamp on the footage is from the night of the auction. But here is what stops him cold. He checks the file metadata. His tech pulls it up without being asked. The file was created 6 days before the auction took place. 6 days. Someone had cameras in that unit before it ever went to auction. They watched him find the tape. They may have made sure he found it. This was not an accident. This was not luck. He did not stumble onto a secret. He was handed one. Rogan sits back in the chair. He does not speak for almost a full minute. Then he says, quietly, someone wanted me to have it. His text says, looks that way. The question is why. And the question underneath that is, who? He tries his Hong Kong contact again. The number he has used twice now. It does not ring. It does not go to voicemail. It simply does not connect. The number has been disconnected. He stares at his phone. His documentary producer, a woman named Claire who has worked with him on 3 long-form projects, sends him a message 20 minutes later. She thinks it is unrelated. She is writing to tell him about a strange interaction she had the previous afternoon. A man approached her outside her office. He said he represented a private security firm. He was polite. He asked her, in a very casual way, whether she knew anything about a VHS tape that Joe Rogan had recently acquired. She thought it was a joke. She told him she had no idea what he was talking about. He thanked her and walked away. It was not a joke. Rogan reads the message twice. They are talking to people around him now, not just watching him, mapping his circle. He makes a decision. And believe me, I want you to understand what kind of decision this is. It is not careful. It is not strategic. It is the kind of decision you make when you feel the walls coming in and you want to remind yourself and everyone else that you are not the kind of person who goes quiet. He records a short clip for his podcast feed. 90 seconds. He does not show the tape. He does not name Raymond Hui or Meridian or David Chow. He only says this: he has come across something that changes the way the world should understand Bruce Lee. He cannot say more yet. But he will. He posts it. Within 45 minutes, it has 3 million views. Within 2 hours, his lawyer calls. A cease and desist has been filed against him by a company called Meridian Cultural Holdings LLC. They are claiming legal ownership of all unreleased Bruce Lee audiovisual materials. They want the tape. They want the digital copies. They want him to remove the teaser clip and make no further public statements. Rogan has never heard of Meridian Cultural Holdings. He asks his lawyer to find out everything she can. She calls back inside an hour. Here is what she finds. Meridian was incorporated in 2021. No public-facing officers. No website. Registered in the Cayman Islands. Its legal representation comes from a firm in Washington, D.C. called Harwick & Lorne. Old firm. Serious firm. The kind of firm that does not take small cases. Harwick & Lorne have done legal work for 3 separate government-adjacent contractors in the last decade. Nothing you could point to directly, but the pattern is there if you know how to look. Someone built a legal structure around this tape. Before Rogan ever found it. They were ready. All they needed was for him to make a move public enough to trigger it. His teaser clip was exactly that move. He sits in his studio, the legal letter on the screen in front of him, and he understands now with complete clarity that he has walked into something that was already built around him. His phone rings. The number is unknown. Different from the first call. Different area code. He answers. A man's voice. Older. Careful with his words, the way people are when they have spent a long time being careful. Mr. Rogan, my name is not important yet. What is important is that I was a student of David Chow. And I have what you need to finish this. Pause. Meet me tonight. Alone. And I will show you what Bruce Lee was actually trying to say. The restaurant is small. East side of the city. The kind of place that has been on the same corner for 30 years and never needed to advertise. 8 tables. No music. A single fluorescent light above the counter that flickers every few minutes and nobody bothers to fix. Rogan arrives first. He sits with his back to the wall. Old habit. The man who walks in 12 minutes later is 71 years old. Small frame. Moves carefully the way people do when their joints have opinions. White hair, cut short. He is wearing a plain gray jacket and he is carrying a plastic bag from a grocery store. He sits down across from Rogan without extending his hand. He says, "My name is Michael Sung. I was 16 years old when Bruce Lee taught me. David Chow introduced us in the summer of 1972. He reaches into the grocery bag and places a VHS tape on the table between them. It is older than the first one. The casing is cracked along 2 edges. The label is handwritten in English this time. 2 words. For after. Rogan looks at it. He does not touch it yet. Sung says, David kept the first tape because it showed the technique. He kept this one because it explains it. Bruce filmed this one himself. In English. Directly to the camera. He wanted there to be no room for misunderstanding. Now get this. Because this is the part that changes everything. Sung leans forward and speaks quietly and clearly for the next 15 minutes. No dramatics. No performance. Just a man telling the truth he has been holding for 50 years. Here is what Bruce Lee had found. Every human body has a natural resistance response. When you generate force, a strike, a push, a throw, your own nervous system partially counteracts it. It is a protective reflex. Built in. The body does not want to damage itself. So it holds back. Always. Every person, every athlete, every fighter who has ever lived has operated with that governor in place. What Lee discovered was a training method that bypassed it. Not through more strength. Not through years of conditioning in the traditional sense. Through a specific sequence of movement repetitions that gradually rewired the nervous system's response pattern. The body learned, over time, that this particular category of movement was not a threat to itself. And when that happened, the governor switched off. The result was force generation that exceeded what the muscular system alone should have been able to produce. Not magic. Not mysticism. Biology. Just biology that nobody had mapped yet in 1973. Lee understood what it meant. He understood why people like Raymond Hui would want it buried. A technique like this, in the wrong hands, documented and distributed without care, became something else entirely. He was not naive about that. But he also believed the knowledge belonged to the world, not to a government, not to an intelligence unit, not to a company incorporated in the Cayman Islands 50 years after his death. So he made 2 tapes, one that showed it, one that explained it, and he gave them to the 2 people he trusted most to know when the time was right. Sung looks at Rogan steadily. He says, David decided the time was right. He left the first tape where someone curious would find it. He left you instructions on how to find me, even if you did not know that is what the receipt was. He planned this for years before he died. Rogan opens his mouth to respond. The door opens. 3 men walk in. They are not loud. They do not rush. They move to positions, 1 near the door, 2 approaching the table, with the quiet efficiency of people who have done this before. The one who reaches the table first is wearing a dark jacket. He looks at Rogan. He does not look at Sung at all. He says, "We represent Meridian Cultural Holdings. We are asking you one final time to hand over the tape and all digital copies. We are prepared to compensate you generously for your cooperation." He pauses. "We are also prepared to make the alternative very uncomfortable." Rogan looks at him. Then he looks at Sung. Sung has not moved, has not flinched. He looks like a man who has been waiting for exactly this moment. Rogan reaches into his jacket pocket. He takes out his phone. He says, "I want to show you something." He opens his podcast app. He is already live. He went live in the parking lot before he walked in, with his phone propped in his breast pocket. The feed shows nothing but fabric. But the audio is clear. And right now, 3 million subscribers are listening to every word being said in this room. He holds the phone up and presses play on a 30-second clip from the second tape. And the voice that comes out of that phone is Bruce Lee's. Calm, clear, explaining, in his own words, exactly what he found and exactly why it matters. The man in the dark jacket goes very still. Rogan says, "It is already out. You cannot take it back." The 3 men look at each other. Nothing is said. They leave. The door closes quietly behind them. Rogan lowers the phone. He looks at Michael Sung. Sung is sitting back in his chair. His hands are flat on the table. His eyes are closed. He looks like a man who has put something down after carrying it for a very long time. If the story matters to you, and I believe it does, share it right now. Because this is exactly the kind of thing that gets buried. And the only way it stays in the light is if enough people refuse to let it disappear. After a long moment, Sung opens his eyes. He says quietly, "He would have liked you." 3 days later, Rogan sits down to record again. Not a teaser this time. Not a live broadcast from a parking lot. Just him, a microphone, and a quiet room. The way it has always been when he has something real to say. He does not open with a celebration. He does not call it a victory. He calls it what it is. A beginning. Here is what happened in those 3 days. Meridian Cultural Holdings withdrew their cease and desist. No explanation given. No public statement. The letter simply stopped being relevant. Their legal team at Harwick and Lorne stopped returning calls. That number matters. Not because anyone who watched the live broadcast needed convincing, but because the people who will spend the next decade trying to dismiss this will need something harder than a podcast clip to push against. Now they have it. Michael Sung agreed to a full recorded interview. It took Rogan 2 days to convince him, not because Sung was reluctant to talk, but because Sung is a careful man. He wanted to think about how much to say and in what order. Rogan respected that. He waited. The interview runs 4 hours and 12 minutes. It will be released in 2 parts. In it, Sung talks about the summer of 1972, about what it was like to be 16 years old and standing in a room while Bruce Lee showed you something you did not have the language to describe. He talks about David Chow, about the kind of man Chow was, quiet, patient, the type of person who plans 10 years ahead and never tells anyone about the plan until it is already finished. Sung says that Chow spent the last 5 years of his life deciding when to release the tapes. He thought about giving them to a martial arts institution. He thought about a university. He thought about a journalist. In the end, he chose a storage unit auction in Burbank and trusted that the right person would find them. Rogan laughs when he says this into the microphone. A real laugh, not a performance. He says, "I paid $240. I almost skipped the auction." 3 university sports science departments have already announced formal studies based on the transcript of Lee's explanation from the second tape. A 4th, in Tokyo, reached out the day the transcript was published. A martial arts historian from Beijing whom Rogan has never met sent a 40-page analysis within 72 hours. He had been working on a related theory for 11 years independently and had never had the foundational evidence to publish it. Now he does. Rogan talks about all of this in the recording. But the part he takes the most time on is not the science. It is not the legal fight. It is not even the confrontation in the restaurant. It is David Chow, a man with almost no digital footprint, no obituary, no legacy that anyone outside a small circle would recognize. He spent 5 decades protecting something he believed mattered. He never told his story. He never sought credit. He just kept the tape safe, and then, when he knew his time was running short, he made sure they would find their way into the light. Rogan says he does not think he would have had that kind of patience. He says it plainly, without false modesty. He means it. He says he does not believe David Chow's death in 2019 was from natural causes. He cannot prove it. He has no evidence he can point to directly. But he believes it. And he says so on the record with his name attached because that is the only honest thing to do. He thinks about Raymond Hui, whoever Hui became after 1975, whether he is still alive, whether he watched the broadcast from somewhere and understood that it was over. He thinks about the photograph. 4 men standing together 7 days before one of them died. 3 of them are gone now. One of them sat across from Rogan in a small restaurant on the east side of the city and put something down that he had been carrying since he was 16 years old. And then Rogan does something simple. He closes the same way he opened. Not with the tape. Not with the conspiracy. With the man. He says, Bruce Lee spent his whole life trying to show people what a human body is actually capable of. Every interview, every film, every training session, every conversation with every student he ever had. He was always saying the same thing in different ways. The limits you accept are almost always smaller than the limits that actually exist. He pauses. Turns out, even after 50 years, he was still teaching. The recording ends. And somewhere in a quiet room on a shelf that nobody else will ever see, there is a cracked plastic VHS casing with an empty space behind the left spool where a photograph used to be. It did its job.